We would like to thank very much the interpreters Geshe Kelsang Wamo, Venerable Karmat Sumtru, Venerable Tenzin Gyurme, and Chechen Mongoose for their generosity. I would like to invite Jhado Rinpoche to join us. Our deepest gratitude to you, Jhado Tulku Rinpoche, for accepting Dharma Friends of Israel request and kindly offer these precious teachings. Thank you very much, Rinpoche.
Oh,
We now shall start the teaching with the prayer of taking refuge in generation of bodhicitta.
Asong Rinpoche tanda nga zo sangye chuzo ma inchige dola kyugin.
Loliso.
Asong. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. But accumulations I gather through listening to the teachings might become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. But the accumulations I gather through listening to the teachings might become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. But the accumulations I gather through listening to the teachings might become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Lasso Rinpoche. Lasso.
Israel ki tak ngaranso thokunin go cho chamolo rendu cheche tane thalam dune ene keje sheji go zuro ches cheje ene rendu cheba na shinje ta tanda dirin dan sani cheje go zu ene kiranzo de dunzom chede thalam dune dunzom chede ba kiranzo chamolo ya ene chamtrishi deli shoes.
First, let me extend my greetings to all of you. I was requested by old friends, old Dharma friends in Israel to give a talk over Zoom. So I will talk a little bit, speak a bit on the Dharma today and tomorrow.
ומעבר לזה גם רימפוצ'ה
thanking all the contributors here today.
שנמצאת עכשיו בגרמניה וגם צ'צ'ן מונגו שמתרגם לרוסית. אז תודה רבה לכולם וברוכים הבאים.
다트네 달람 뒤에 페이지 도스체 때문에 이제 그저 셔야지 내 미제는 당고인다스 인자 저 천사지 도스.
So I think this is my first time giving a Dharma teaching over Zoom, over the internet. So I do feel a bit awkward. But anyway, I think I will slowly get used to this. So let me start.
רימפוצ'ה התחיל עם בית שמוקיר את...
So she just recited the verse of salutation to the Buddha from Nanguchena's fundamental wisdom.
הוא הסיר את כל הרשת של כל מצבי התודעה האחרים ועכשיו הוא מלמד אותנו, או הבודה לימד אותנו, איך נעשה את זה בעצמנו.
הנה, תלם דיונה, דיון יומבו, 먼저 못하고지 다른 것도 못하고지 그저 도스제 자야 여봐 개무게 여봐 소화 여봐 어떤 데지 돈에 밥 파즈 두치 통하여 대 믹스에 가보죠.
So with technology nowadays, although we cannot meet face to face, but nevertheless, with such a platform, we can see one another, we can hear one another. So I'm quite happy about this.
롭센티 상계중된 대기 에네 춘두와 돈에 숭샤고 누엔 돈에 숭샤고 소소타벤 돈에 숭샤고 디바치야 미차신 개와부송 처벌제 랑기sem네 용선도 니는 산제 땜바이 인사야 이 주시 톨이야 인 드린다 산이 독제 딱게지셔야 먼저 땜베 책으로 왔어.
So
the plan here is for me to speak a little bit on this verse, which is from the Pratimoksha Sutra. The verse goes like this: do not commit any negative action, engage in wholesome, perfect virtue, subdue your mind. This is the teaching of Buddha.
찍치도 시부지가 내려고 찍치도 하장기 내첨고 내려고 있나야 내첨고 다고 내려고 인당 가르를 쓰인데 디바치기 요마레스 겨우 닥시에트 제오레스 아니 소스 샘드 두 제오레스 다근데 닝 산제 때문에 있으제 찍디 모동 감기 제시에 된지도 와스.
So if you look at the verse literally, in a way, it is quite straightforward. But nevertheless, this verse contains many essential points. So if you look at the verse from a simple point of view, literally it is saying, let's not engage in any non-virtue. Let's perform engage in virtue. Let's subdue our mind. And this is the teaching of the Buddha.
אמנו את תודעתכם עד תום. מהבחינה הזאת זה נראה שמה שהבודה דיבר עליו הוא פשוט להבנה.
דאקו 지 띵사로 담바이나 아니 마란조 두자티 디기레 대화 두비아레 두자 디기레 대화 두비아텔라 아니 뺑고 바발루 두기 당봉공벌 터비치 진행해 발레고 때스네 원도다 두정 원도다 밀리니 말 디기두야 어디 원도 두베 둘루 베체티 쇼로가티나네 숭구요레 밀리 두베 둘루야 베체티나네 숭구요레 아니 베저 지 터두 깨제 샤베나 농아 용솔로 깨제 티나네야 예드치르바스.
However, if we were to examine this verse in more detail, that's much to talk about. So what we are all looking for is happiness. And as Nagarjuna said in this precious garland, there are two goals to be achieved. First, there is high status, and on the basis of achieving birth for high status, then we achieve definite goodness or permanent lasting happiness. So the way to achieve these two goals can be explained on the basis of this verse. But in fact, we can talk about the entire sutra and tantra on the basis of this verse.
אז בעצם הבית שעכשיו קראנו, שלקוח מהסוטרות שהבודה לימד, הוא מכיל את המשמעות הזאת שנגרג'ונה הזכיר אותה, מצבי לידה שהם גבוהים, והמצב הסופי שהוא טוב סופי. בעצם כל השיעורים שהבודה לימד, שיעורים של סוטרה ושיעורים של טנטרה, כולם ללא יוצא מן הכלל, אפשר לומר נכללים בבית הזה שקראנו אותו עכשיו.
다든다 말한도 참말로 낭취로 좀 치네 낭취 도난 치네 낭취 냠내 치네 대생직 말한도 대루루 치네 좀그 요래 아니 말한도 양양 야와이 신노비 숭취 년요 요래 갑티도 야와신노 인 양내 양도 까나야 나려야 나와산 계획이 최티 아니 타르동네 술 두베이나 아니 저바 차와 매바다 따와 땡중을 수마지 모두 왔어 어디 빼미시베 내가 친구 까매지도 왔어 따와 땡중다 저바 차와 매바 저바 차와 매바 최고야 돼 따와 땡중을 투요 대야 단대 식티 저자티 땡기가 했어.
So all of us are interested in the Buddha Dharma. All of us are learning about the Buddha Dharma. All of us are practicing the Buddha Dharma, and all of us have listened to His Holiness teach many times. And as you already know, His Holiness in his teachings often says the entire Buddha Dharma can be condensed into 2 points: the view and conduct. The Buddhist view is that of the interdependent origination or the interdependent nature of reality, and conduct is that of non-violence.
שכל שוריו של הבודה כוללים, וזה גם מה שכבוד הדלאי למה אומר שוב ושוב. אז בעצם ההתנהגות או התרגול של אי אלימות, של אי הסבת נזק לזולת, היא תלויה בהשקפה הפילוסופית של ההתהוות בתלות.
지단 잡을리야. 다 출루 미도 나바나서 망부지에다. 디조 창말로기 라라스스 캄다 메바다 뜸베 고네 지 디지 두비아기 탐람지 땡기여 봐. 아니 저바 상고지 지단지 땡기여 봐. 셴라 펜도 제약이 아니 탐람지 땡기여 봐. 다 충바지 임바래. 다 넘버 산게베기 아니 다 셴라 디지 두다 셴라 펜바 두다 저바 상주 용당 어디 컨디지레스 제제 마 domgyabyundu ane namba sangye begi jigta tabkel tuji chombo debe tuba sangye chomden degi chugi phungbo kanyu podi gyal hatsi yedeba ti joja kanga chu debe ina jobati chawa meba tha tawati tinjung la tubu chi thone dugu ye yembachi ta joba chawa chi yo mare sayati jobati 컨디지레스나 고 계제도 야 도르드베 추기 닝두 chen 마카나 윤두 아니 중나 샹라 페마두 대다르 마중나 샹라 네벨레 마체 사야티 아니 저가 차와메 텐드레스 대다와티 저가 차와메 제과야디 오 상계 좀 된데 그 공부하다 상계게 까르다스 계자마 힘버체 강다 냠내 친이 라라소소 뇌바디 디기레 민드바디 동네레 다 디기디 유메바다 게메발 용고마레 유다 게지 요레 어 텐다바디 중나 샹라 펜바두 대다 마중나야 샹라 네벨레 마체베이나 아니 대인 디부디 라마 디기 용마브다스 어 샹리야 펜바 마두바체 디강리야 네벨레 체베이나 아니 디부 동네스기 야야다스 제제 윤제 땡중 대야 타르투나 때네다베 땡중 어딜 투유바 어도스 제네 나와 땡중을 투유바 사데 나와 땡중 순과 내가 대투도와.
So in this world of ours, there are many religious traditions, and all of them are the same in promoting message of kindness. All of them teach us to be kind, and they teach us to help other sentient beings. So likewise, the Buddha Dharma is the same. In the Buddha Dharma, the Buddha taught many teachings that will enable us to be of benefit to other sentient beings, and enable us to be kind and helpful to others. So all of the Buddhist teachings are contained in about slightly more than 100 volumes in the Tibetan translation. But if you were to condense the essence of these 100 volumes, essentially at the end of the day, we come down to these 2 points: the conduct of non-violence and the view of dependent origination. So, the main here is conduct. Conduct is that of non-violence. So, and if you were to basically, talk about the essential point of non-violence, the message can be this: if we can, we should help others. But even if we can't help others, we should not cause any harm to other sentient beings. So why is there such a conduct in Buddhism? We do not follow such a conduct simply because the Buddha told us to do so. The point is this: what we want is happiness, and what we do not want is suffering. The happiness that we desire cannot arise without any causes. The happiness that we desire arises from certain causes and conditions. So if we can help others, that's good. But even if we can't, we should abstain, refrain from harming others. And in so doing, we will achieve happiness. So put aside not helping others. On top of that, if we actually engage in actions that are harmful to other sentient beings, then the end result will be suffering for ourselves. So at the end of the day, the reason why we have this conduct of non-violence in Buddhism is because of the Buddhist view of dependent origination, and in particular amongst the different interpretations of dependent origination. We have dependent origination in terms of causality. So that is the reason why we engage in the conduct of non-violence.
אז אם אנחנו נהיה לתועלת לזולת ונימנע מפגיעה בזולת, זה יגרום לנו עושר ורווחה אישית. ואם אנחנו נפגע בזולת ולא נהיה להם לתועלת, אז אנחנו נחווה סבל. אז בעצם מה שהדבר הזה מביא אותנו זה להכרה בזה שהסבל והעושר שלנו הם התהוות בתלות בגורמים ותנאים, ומעבר לזה, אם ניגע בזה ברמה יותר עדינה או יותר עמוקה, התהוות בתלות שתלויה בתיוג על סמך בסיס תיוג מסוים. זאת השקפת ההתהוות בתלות לסולה.
다 텐더티 안 던데 쇼로카 디고치야 미차신 더 분송 초버제 랑기sem네 용수도 디네 산제 땀바 인셰베 쇼로가티 컨데스 체지 땡기 요르스 제베이나 여 분송 초버제 사야디기 샹라 팸버두야 중나 샹라 팸버두사 지 수수 지 미기주공기 추중기 천배 야럽 상주기 천배 두조 조 셴규천도 제네 셴기 대두 당도랑베 토 승구리께베 토네 아니 기디방라 추신도 제야 디다 풍송 초바 개와 풍송 초바 어디인도 중나 샹라 팸버두사디 디땡기요 다 되네 대다 마중나야 아니 셴라 네벨레 마체 사야디 아니 디바치야 미차신 사야디 땡기요 봐 디식세 와 요마레 셴나 바치 요마스 다오나 텐다바치 셴나 페바두 대다 마중나 셴나 네벨레 체무 미제야기 아니 저바차바 메바티 유생 가바 투버레스 제베이나 따따와 땡중을 투버레스 틱틱 connecting the orcheveina rang sem yongsu dulus o tandang aranche chaso nyomu tigeti sem matrua timu dinzingi shawana ten chungate chires nam shigi che lo chinjilo timu dinzitela nyembo tembe gone timu dinzi lar mikewe chojen tu cheje o ti chungwaina ani semti nilu yang tawa riba chagi yores nilu yang tawa riba gone rangi ji mituncho yongsu zoba ma che tuya ji yungu yores o kaptidu ta sem tuwa tar tuwa de yimbare shiwa kyanomba sayati gokba shiwa kyanom simi o tos cheje namgi chö konjo godengi yende inde sungu duwas rangi sem yongsu dulsidu tawa tenjung.
So as I said early on, we should help other sentient beings if we can, but if we can't, we should refrain from harming others. So how does how is this taught in this verse from Bhakti Moksha Sutra? So in this verse, the second line says, engage in wholesome, perfect, or virtue. Isn't it? So the second line of the verse is basically saying that we should help others. Even our practice of abstaining or refraining from non-virtue, such as the ethical discipline of refraining from the 10 non-virtues, should be done with the motivation of not wanting to cause any harm to others. So the consideration of practicing ethics is more of the happiness of sentient beings. And if you were to do such a practice, for example, then that would be an instance of engage in wholesome or perfect virtue. But even if we can't help others, at the very least, we should refrain from causing harm to others. And this is taught in the first line of the verse, which says, do not commit any negative actions. And as I mentioned earlier on, why is there such a practice of conduct here in Buddhism? Because of this philosophical view of dependent origination, which is taught by the third line of the verse, which says, subdue your mind. So currently, we are under the influence of our affliction, such as anger and attachment and so forth. And these afflictions have their root in ignorance. So ignorance is the root of afflictions. And because of these afflictions, then we engage in non-virtue and so forth. So come the day when through the force of applying the antidote to our ignorance, and through that we are able to destroy ignorance to the point that ignorance will never ever arise again in our mind. Yeah. So of course, this can only happen if we see the ultimate nature of reality, we realize emptiness. So if with this realization, then we'll be able to cut through the whole class of discordant factors. And when we achieve such a state, then that is the real liberation, the real peace, the real spaciousness.
디두 다 강당 강 용과 되게 참말로 에네 So, Tinjung la tu de yabachi. Tinjung tiang, and Junde Tinjung Rawachi. You tell it then, Dribu de Jungre. Dribu tiang, you deal a turbachire. Sagi, Tinjung Rawachi. Tapena, Saben then you jigre sadi, young dachire. Yinaya, Judy, Dribble de sadi, that is still chargere. Pena, Ugu Amati, Ama Imbati, Ugu Jebala, Tene, and Amashib Tanya de Jura Mato Chigi, Ding Entela, Amashib Tanya de Jumidua, Tinde Indu, Amashebe, the Amati Jure, Puti, Tudi, Jure, Rede, Amaswati, or Chajeti, Juat, Minti Juktuati, on Dribble Tene, Dribble Tubul Tene, and Amashib Tanya de Juguva, Tinde Indu. Dribu gyula teba tondo mase, gyul dribulu tebe chigi, and turuki, dendi chigi, namsha cha chigi yode bache. Tele kyang pa char tan yundu, tang ji mingyang tayo zamgi, denjung sa chigi, chwe tamche, kangda kanyi na ya, yode bache tenden re, mindu singi di namasan jibe sungu mare. Mare di yuzu di ngaran chogi, tanda ji kake lo koma chönagi nilu lo koma kyuni me denye jigi chitar nawa nashi yutingdu yoba nashi tindre jigi chazu tartu ane yoda me cheba chebe tsena ane yugi tingne kangdu yang tatardu tsene nigyu me daba ta namje namba dungu gone ina re tan ji tande di jida tadelo soba namnye rikwe gone ina re, o tu cheba chayindu niya mede bachi. O tinde tinjung la tene tu de bachi res, gyusen tel la tene, ane diba chungna shenla pembadu, tetan ma chungna shenla nebe le mache sayati riba yanda ka lamya tu de bachi res. O di konjo ka nama zamshi res sayati geja mayimba. O tuzo kanga le gyusen ki ribe la na tena bete yachi yodeba. O ribela ne ngeba nya yudeba o tati peje zamuni ne ya joba chawa che gu mare sumya te churu chame sungre de di yusen tartu di riba yanda tinjung riba tu res tawa tinjung tu res ate nambe tumo mai bachigi ndo tachi imbatia kya te kachmo imba.
So in order to really understand the presentation of happiness and suffering from the Buddhist perspective, we need to understand the view of dependent origination, and there are different levels of subtlety when we explain the meaning of dependent origination. So on a course level, we talk about dependent origination in terms of causality. So usually we see that effects come into being in dependence upon their causes. So this everybody knows. Yeah? So for example, in dependence upon a sprout arises. Okay? So this is straightforward. Yeah? But we can talk about causality in a slightly more subtle way. Not only are results dependent on causes, but causes are also dependent on their results. So, for example, a woman is only a mother in relation to the child that she gives birth to. Without having given birth to a child, without depending on that activity, that action, that woman cannot be considered a mother. So in this case, in this example, the mother is the cause of the child, isn't it? But the status of the woman's status of being a mother is also dependent upon the child she gives birth to, isn't it? So this is a slightly more subtle presence of causality. Then there is even a more subtle explanation of dependent origination in that all phenomena that exist are dependently textual. All things and phenomena that exist only in mere name. They are merely imputed by thought. So all of us, because we are untrained, because our minds are untrained, we do not understand the ultimate nature of reality. So all phenomena that appear to us as if they exist from their own side. That things and phenomena have an objective existence. Things appear to us in that way, and we assent to the appearance. We believe in that. But however, if we were to check and analyze whether things exist the way they appear to us or not, and there are different ways of engaging this analysis. There are different lines of reasoning that one can use, such as the reasoning of one different and so forth. So the more we look for the imputed object, we will discover that it cannot be found. The imputed object, when searched for, cannot be found. And this is the most subtle explanation of dependent origination. And this primarily is the reason why in the Buddha Dharma, we talk about the practice of conduct, the conduct of non-violence. We as Buddhists do not engage in practice of non-violence just only because the Buddha told us so. There is a reason behind, and the reason behind such a practice is the dependent origination. So if you look at the other religious traditions, I think all religious traditions generally they talk about non-violence, right? But it is only Buddhism that talks about a valid reason, a valid justification for engaging in such a practice. And as I said earlier on, the main reason is the view of dependent origination.
כי יש לנו סיבות ונימוקים שהם הגיוניים, שהם מראים לנו או מורים לנו למה אנחנו צריכים להימנע מפגיעה לפגוע בזולת, ואם נוכל אז להיות לתועלת לזולת.
תודה. 저바 차와 매버티 따와 띵중을 투버레 수야티 양 투모 마임베 남베 체주치도 와스 디 칸데치도 체베이나 대파참기 토네 엔 루그메바 남바산제베 추주디 상게 좀 된데 마 숭윤드네 대파조 지단 자와 대파고레 대파자와레 대파까지 탐지기 자와레 이내야 대파코네 당기메바 델레야 루자라나 소소랑 응외네 델레야 리베제바체네 아니 지 다 tö성공 사진으로 담보트 되네 델레야 리베제바체서 지들 퇴배던 리버시 니다 천도 수시 랍다네 그래서 베티 다 리베제바체 되네 단디마도 로서민도 삼베 녀바징에 중나 아니 델레야양 콤버치 리버체네 아니 니다 천도 수시 랍다네 삼제네라 삼레 중앙이 남로이 대세심도 사비 추zul라 삼종로 미신이베 체스 제제 다 이렇게 돼서 링차수 다 간다 디레 담보퇴 엔 퇴배 될 제바체 제배 내발 남점 장인도 델리야 콤디 땡제 콤버체 리버체버들 곰슨 토요섬 곰숨 림바신도 로고 여다지 델리야 인 섬세 티카도텔라 대바치고 지금 당긴 매대봐 제바체고 여다봐 딘데지기 제바체고 여바띠 아니 다 상게 좀 된데기 투무 마임바기 개체모질을 쓰이네 아니 디시고 랑게야 숨고도 와 아니 야노다감 개남지 sekjaydawe sirshindu labaratala naika lawan chai kuchir means oda nge kortu yobe gelonso inare rabjung tenje antima imbe kimbe tenje kangdar namjugi loju yedeni keba kilanso yus nge ma sheshabat ma nge yundu an tagara sanje dikares chin chamashas telaya an jabasundi jabaches musung nabatuge 고규 제바가 내가 두게 되는 신도 고규 이체 룽 내가 두게 제바숨이 내가 매바지 통윤도 아니 신에 내가들로 그바체 대바체스는 숭야데 단데 땡중으로 툭서야 돼 뒤져버려 저바 차와 매바 태양 대바장식이 토네 로마 마임바 윤대 땡중 때네 답에 땡중 아니 민장 다요 저기 땡중 뒤즈리 벌 때네 단 디마도 로사민도 딱 뭐냐다네 강다는 나 디기 고기요 동에 고기 매이나 다 디기 두야게 탑 미라마도 로사민도 섬에 수시 델리야 다 제베 탐베 녀바치냐 녀바녀베 텐들라 엔 컴디된 범제 도스체 숨고야래 디 넘버 상제베기 다 주주 내가 친구집 로다지래 디야 단데디 sikki tengi yo imbare
So as I've mentioned earlier on, dependent origination is the main reason why we engage in the conduct of non-violence. This is an uncommon assertion or explanation of Buddhism. It is important for us to derive an ascertainment through reasoning. Although faith is important, as it is said that faith is the root of all wholesome or right virtues. But nevertheless, faith alone is insufficient. We need a justification. We need to know the reasons why we should or shouldn't act in a certain way. So as you know, there's threefold activity or hearing, reflection, and meditation. So first we engage in hearing or study. Then next we should reflect, analyze the words or analyze what we have heard to the point of gaining ascertainment, to the point of gaining conviction in whatever subject matter that we are dealing with. So, and once we have developed an ascertainment of whatever subject matter that we are dealing with, then the next step is to familiarize our minds with what we have already ascertained. So that is meditation. So we should engage in this threefold activity of hearing, reflection, and meditation. So as I've said earlier on, faith alone, although it is important, faith alone is insufficient. We need to analyze the Buddha's teachings. In fact, the Buddha himself said that analysis is important. So the Buddha said, like analyzing gold through scorching, cutting and rubbing it, monks and scholars are to adopt my word, not for the sake of respecting me, but upon analyzing it well. So the Buddha told his followers, the monks and the intelligent ones, those who possess discrimination. The Buddha said, you should not follow me, or you should not follow my advice simply out of respect for me, but rather you should think about what I've said. And if it makes sense, if it is reasonable, then you should follow my advice. Yeah. So, and specifically, so what the Buddha is saying is, yeah, with regards to manifest or obvious phenomena, we must make sure that whatever the Buddha has taught with reference to manifest or obvious phenomena must not contradict ordinary direct experience or direct perception. Then the Buddha's teachings with respect to the slightly hidden phenomena should not contradict or go against inference or inferential conviction. And the Buddha's proclamation on extremely hidden phenomena should not contradict authoritative scriptures. So likewise, with regards to the Buddhist philosophical view of dependent origination, we should not accept it at face value. We should not accept it just because the Buddha said so, the Buddha taught it, but rather we should analyze. We should, and employ logic and reasoning to analyze. And with regards to dependent origination, there are different levels of dependent origination, isn't it? The dependent origination on the level of causality, then the dependent origination in terms of dependent vaccination, and then we have dependent origination on at the subtlest level. How all phenomena are dependently vaccinated, merely imputed by thought. How all phenomena exist only in mere name. Yeah. So if we are not interested in pursuing happiness, then it is fine. We don't have to engage in any of these analysis. But if we are seriously looking for happiness, then we should investigate the Buddha's teachings and not just approach the Buddha's teaching on the level of just faith alone, but rather we should engage in, we should utilize logic and reasoning and to analyze the Buddha's proclamation or teachings on dependent origination to the point of gaining heartfelt conviction. And on the basis of that conviction, then we put the Buddha's teachings into practice. And what I've just said can be explained using the verse, which is the subject matter of today's teaching.
אנחנו עושים את זה על ידי הסתמכות על ההשקפה של התהוות בתלות, כאשר אנחנו מגיעים למסקנה על ידי הבחינה הזאת, בעלת שלושת הרבדים, שדברים מתקיימים בצורה הזאת ולא בצורה אחרת. אז אנחנו רוצים להיות מאושרים, אנחנו רוצים בטוב. וכדי להגשים את העושר והרווחה האישית שלנו, אז אנחנו קודם כל מקשיבים לשיעוריו של הבודה. ואז אנחנו מנתחים את השיעורים האלה עם הטכניקה הזאת של שלושת הרבדים, אנחנו מגיעים למסקנות מסוימות, שככה הדברים מתקיימים במציאות, ואז אנחנו לוקחים את זה אל תוך תהליך המדיטציה שלנו, וזאת בעצם, אפשר לומר שזו גם משמעות של הבית שהבודה לימד, הימנעו מכל פעולה שלילית, תפחו מעשי חסד מושלם, אמנו את תודעתכם עד תום בדרך הזאת של פיתוח של הבנה של ההתהוות בתלות והתרגול של אי אלימות, באמצעות הניתוח הזה בעל שלושת הרבדים, זוהי תורתו של הבודה.
다 드네바 데스 카두 코라 마치메체 데스 고르지 치바이나 데스 게제 고르제 뭐 담다디 야와이시노구 애니 딩상기 지 두럽기 니슈자지바 어디까블야 먼저촌에 애니 출루다 만레베 상주세 지기 세큘리 이틱스 직감이 순구도 대야 단데 디버지함이 자신 개와 분선 처벌제 랑기선 용순 둘사야기 리나는 진짜와요 되버지 그 가르스나 셴리아 지조 셴리아 펜드루야 아니 야랍 상주 디버미제야 야랍 상주던 드레베고네 디버미제야 대다와티 아니 조디 센투 마투기 제스체는 누구 열다 사야디기 다 출루지리야 마tum바 체제 출루다 만데바 임바 이나야 지조 티나리야 디기지 고기 여바 이나 셴리야 미베 학상 강지 셴뱅 셈 강투도 고기 여바 개와 풍송 초벌제 사야티나네 땡기 여바 셴뱅 학상 다 되네 누중 촉시 랑팀 숭야 두조 디버지야 미차 싱사야디기 땡기 여대바 다티 몰람 염는 죽음에바 치료를 총관으로부터 된대지기 지 자네 녀자 겹제 잘라 녀버나 시체니 녀야 매대바 수수샘디 마두와디 두루단제 디토네 샘을 규규 땅에 토네 단당나란치 에네 남기 겨신의 양양 갖는 게 도와 르베 초된 세야디 잠불링이나라 셰다 게다 요레스 도와줄매 충충지다 칼라 충충지 잘라지 여베 있는 람산 디나리아 르베 초된 게 토리아 디탈 네고메 딩아잘 네고메 디샥슬 네고메 제 어디 초된 거게 좀 뭐요레스 잘라 충충지 여베 있는 디나 르베 초된 게자 시부 된거 레데 단도 생 초된 생 정달 승인이 배치를 딩두기 시행나라 배치 단답하도 중대 매대지 코치 당기 매지 당문에 자네기 lumba 디나라 점블리 리리 디나라야 lumba 디기지 고고요 lumba 참마베 시대를 내 고고요 딘데지 임바이나 시대 용어를 쇼스네 깨겸네 시대로선 루트야지 용거 말았어 다 시대 용다 마용기 제바보 강사라니 디심제 둔돌 조 말았어 심제 밀러스 심제 미라니기 디도부 처베 나라야 지 미치 규르기두셰 단 점불리리 디나야 미창말로 원에는 아주 상마 미래 아서버지 박베 추심 민다와 지 공시 민다와 출루 민다와 딘데지 민다와 몽고여데 미치 규르기두셰지 디토야 대wan 대바다 동해 민도바 지규르지 두셰지 토네 나라라 지 디기 고번나시 현달라야 디기 고브레 네 디기 대야 현달라 대바지레 현다 야보지 충분히나 말라야 디기 레야지레 근데 인자 핀주 대베란 신진지 레 삼베 토네 잠니 샤누미나레 어출루 핀주 미나이나레 창말로 파주 지다 초라 지규 빈두시지 개청부 요레스 수야 대야 다데디나야 딱다 직땡기 여버지 셈두 마투 거네 lumbal야 디기 용다 마용 생게디 투브레스네 디나야 세부 여버서지도
So let me take a slight detour rather than talking about this verse. Let me take a slight detour. So as you may already know, in these days, whenever His Holiness his teachings to the general world, to the general public, he often promotes this concept of secular ethics, isn't it? So even this concept of secular ethics, I think, can be explained on the basis of the verse, which is the subject matter of his teachings, isn't it, right? So, as I mentioned earlier on, it is good if we can help others, but at the very least, even if we can't, we should not harm other sentient beings. But at the end of the day, whether we are able to do this or not depends on the state of our mind. It is really dependent on whether we have subdued our minds are not, isn't it, right? So even if we talk about it in a general way, without involving religion, isn't it? Without involving religion, if what we want is really happiness, isn't it? If what we want is really happiness, then we should promote the value or the concept of helping others, benefiting others. And this is what His Holiness often does, isn't it? So this idea of helping others, the value or the benefits of helping other sentient beings can be explained with the second line of the verse, engage in perfect, wholesome actions. And His Holiness also talks about the need, the importance of contentment, the importance of self-discipline, isn't it? This can be explained with the first line of the verse, which is, do not commit any negative actions. Yeah? Okay? So the happiness that we are all looking for does not come from merely wishing for it. Neither can it be bought from a shop. But rather, if what we want is really happiness, then we have to change our way of thinking. Basically, we have to work with ourselves. We have to subdue our mind. We have to change our mind. Yeah? And as such, we can apply this to the third line of the verse, which is subdue your mind thoroughly. So, as you may already know, His Holiness often in his teachings, he talks about the concept of physical and mental hygiene. Between the two, physical hygiene is something that the world is accepts, something that the world is interested in, isn't it? Right. So even with regards to food, so much emphasis on having a proper diet, a healthy diet, isn't it? And a lot of effort is goes into food labeling, isn't it? But however, His Holiness often says, however, what the world is lacking now is mental hygiene. And the importance of mental hygiene and how to achieve this mental hygiene is not taught in modern education. It's not found in our modern educational curriculum, isn't it? So if you look at this planet of ours from outer space, we are just this one small round little planet, and in this planet we have many nations and countries, and we need to live in harmony. We need world peace, but world peace can never be achieved just by mere words. World peace will not come about just by staging protests, staging demonstrations and demanding it. Rather, His Holiness has mentioned again and again that all of us, we human beings, we need to develop or cultivate this attitude, this recognition that all of us are the same. We are the same human brothers and sisters. We are one human family. Although there are different races in this world, there are people of various colors, and we subscribe to different religious beliefs and so forth. But nevertheless, at the fundamental level, we are the same in being a human being. And what we want is happiness, isn't it? And our happiness is very much dependent on others. Yes.
Tatande ji chunu mandebe sangju sayaki di sikti peche tambe katula tande dibachi amichaji sheso sholokati rang semni yongsun dul sengende nyombe dribada sheje dribada danzin pang mabangi kame marwas o sem duvat kar sem maduvat kar o champagne hasamki lo yaboye deba dojung choshe yeba rangchin sunya yeba sosen chigi yeba o tinde chigi samno chi shengi dedu la zo singulan denyengi samno chi yeba ina ti sem tubo da rangdong koju shata cheje an rangi chirdu shendalaya gogodang gogina gogodang sal gogodang tuzo she gosal tuzo she oda tinde cheje en yogu chamsungi tinde cheje music kegi yobe ina pedawati sem matuwe kansachi o tinde sem tu matu singi tinde chiliya muenzimbe toone sem tuwe kansachi chungba ina tendawati sosorani kiba 좀도 마세 지소라야 디기 튼투그레스 지소라야 펜데치고 튼투그레스 나 셈마투와 얘는 지 마게 차도 얘는 댄셈 데네지 셴을 투즈 어지 셴을 양고고다야 어 딘데지기 유규 참송기 삼노 샤다 머rum바 얘는 닝라 장데니지 강사지 치점마 여베 있네야 디기 점물린 디나라야 지소라야 축제 전부 차기여 봐. 점물린 지소 미드 점 마세 로바 소자 등로 충제라야 답시 친구 누구여. 진짜지 인도 점물린이야 디기 촌에 상고 용당 마용 생계비 체리 야게 치 마치 지고지를 도움해 봐. 체리 야게 치 출래 야게 치니 점물린이야 편도 전부 땡땡해제 중요하냐 다통이냐 체리 야게 침바 점시기 엔 디기 디 당기 매대바지 까브레 체리 야게라 때네 맘다 쳐봐 양결래 거야지 주주 용 거야디 가르쳐 버렸으나 셈 투바당 셈 마투와 니기 캐버티 야고치기 니주디 다 셰베 토네 방랑기 만당바기 견차기 해대지 최켈레나야 티레 최켈말레나야 티레 지단 디두 초 강에 용다 모용스니 될 투데버지레 딘데지 인두 드럼니 자지버 미지소 니나리야 오늘 전에 미생인데 남주엔데바 심제 등롤레 시타기 지금 삼 야친구 당기유니 지 로자타 동라비 체슈고 유유니 딘데지기 미티 다 오늘 전에 셈 두바다 셈 마투니 캐버티 셰베 토네 셈 두베 림발이야 롭존 체제 류 초된 롭존 체바나시 셈게 초된이야 롭존 체제 셈게 초된게 토네 야게치 당야지 단대 부춘중 빌랍다 지 킨더가든 시도와 지 부춘중 로 시방아바기 랍단도 사지 A B C D 장사 어다 두존네 제바지기 랍다네 체제 어 기겐 수수 파마소스 어 야럽 저상스 어 되네 지 유교 참수 생에디 게임바 셴페다 소세 생에다 학점 생에도서 연대인백이 로정도서 야야 테세데 간다 생기 정달 생에디 시부지기 두랍딜라 개친구인데와 딘데지 중바이나 출래 열게 예배 토라 생기 정달을 야부지기 토네 응원에 니기 풍송 쳐봐서야지 다 용투야지 어 개와 풍송 쳐봐서 나신지 니기 풍송 쳐봐 용투야지 어 디다 지 난추단 부모님의 대외 토는 말에 난추단 만대외 토는 야럽상지 배단지기 토라 있느냐 아니 이거지야 미차시 개와 풍송 쳐버지 랑기 셈니 용수 둘세야 되기 땡기 여대지 어떤데 힘을라 등아래서 다 삼수천 쉬고요.
So as I mentioned earlier on, we can explain the concept of secular ethics on the basis of the verse, which is the subject matter of today's teaching. And if we were to talk about secular ethics on the basis of this verse, so in the third line of this verse, it says, "Subdue your mind thoroughly." So if we are talking about secular ethics, which has nothing to do with religion, then of course, when we say we need to subdue our minds thoroughly, we are not talking about the Buddhist practice of overcoming our apprehension of true existence. You know, we are not talking about overcoming such self grasping, isn't it? Right? Isn't it? So, but rather, if we talk about this from a secular point of view, so if our minds are subdued, in that if we have contentment, if we have patience, if we have self-discipline, if we have the thought of benefiting others, this will bring us happiness and joy in this life. On the other hand, if we are overly selfish, and because of being very selfish, if we take advantage of others, if we harm others, if we bully others, then this will bring about problems for ourselves and for people around us. So even from the perspective of secular ethics, whether we become a good person or happy person or not depends very much on whether our minds are disciplined or undisciplined. So if our minds are disciplined, not only will we experience happiness and joy, but we will be able to bring happiness to the people around us. We will be able to make a positive contribution to the society, to the world. On the other hand, if people are arrogant, people are always jealous of others' achievements, if we are always competing with others, you know, in a overly negative way, and if we take advantage of others, we bully others, you know. So can you imagine? The more there are of such people in the world, there will be more and more problems in this world, isn't it? So, although scientific and technological advancement is important, it is necessary. However, scientific advancement and technological development alone does not guarantee a happy world. It does not guarantee a happy mind. Although they do bring about benefits. However, in this world of ours where technology is really so advanced, nevertheless, you see that there are a lot of unhappy people around, isn't it? In fact, sometimes scientific advancement and technological development leads to more stress, more unhappiness, isn't it? Right. So basically, even if there is a great material advancement, scientific and technological development, but if our minds are not disciplined, then you'll never be happy, isn't it? And this applies to everybody, regardless of whether you are a believer or not, regardless of whether you subscribe to a religion or not, isn't it? So we are people of the 21st century. So people of the 21st century, supposedly people that are more intelligent. So basically, those who are intelligent, those who possess discernment, So if you are such a person, you should sit down and objectively analyze to see if indeed there are any benefits from having a subdued and disciplined mind. So this is what we need. First, we need to sort this out. We need to convince ourselves of the benefits of having a subdued or disciplined mind. And once you've sorted that out, then you need to learn the methods to achieve this mental hygiene that His Holiness often talks about. Yeah? Okay, so developing this mental hygiene is, I think, is very important. Yeah, in particular, parents and educators have this responsibility of teaching the importance of mental hygiene and the responsibility of teaching people how to achieve this mental hygiene, how to achieve this mental happiness. No, Sanjay.
It was Lübe Choden Dam Mase, Sem Chodengi, the Sam Danda Jired was, or Sem Tu Matu Sit. Sem Tu Matu Sinkenti, or Nanchu Chini Lobjon Chinyam, Cheva Lobjon Chini, Zamshin Maimba. Churlia Tabaya, but Maba Kangi, Kandeji Inaya, Kanda, Sem Choden Tolia, never Jendu, Donache Goyaji, chatted to us. Really, you saying it to us. Carreras, Sosorani, Chisola Tene, Tangoyaji, read it to us. Sosochiwogi, Michikyo said, Miduas, Sosochiwog, Lobjon said, Midu, Sosochiwog, Tonley Jab said, Midu, Sosochiwog, Trodan, Young said, Midu, Trodantia, Chisola Tesha, Chiantia, Chisola Tesha, or that Tonley in the Indi, or that Shane, so to Yonzolo, Chisola Teta, which read to us. Rani Kandu Tense, Tese, Jizo Tigi, and Didu Tolia, Chitsangi, and Singulan Tuyaji, or Tindejiti, that Kankan Chimudi, you send them which read to us, or Dindu, so Jigo Tolia, some no madam, Jizo Tolia, Ji Young Tolia, some down said, or the Ji Young Tolia, some dying, same to a Chagiola, so Jigo Tolia, some down, same Matu Chagiola. Then Dalati. Nangchu get to go revesna, Mares. You say Nibal Candidusna, Tindugi, Membe Tiri to and Rani Juogi, Nan Nasati, and Shiragi, Chukchabo, or Tindechabaina, Ninza Care, the Tindegi, the Nasatinde, Mambo Yunguyova, Tinyanga Tsayova, or the Sosachugog, some of the Nurutanje, Chizog Tori, some of love chill, Kuyang, Yachel, or Tindeg some Damina, teacher Chigi, tender Mitilia, G. 70, Shidedam, Tindeg Tolia, Netuala, Getsenyoba, Shidela Soba Tindechi, Chumbaina, Luvu, Sumya, Piggyova, immune systems, or Javashin Yaya, the Pejodanangadua, or the or Piggy, but then Eddie, I was a shinime, or Dosre, or Tindeskanangaduas, or Tuzo, that Monetane, Tindugi, Membe Daje Cheni, Tundeton, Gejaravas. What do you tell some not dying Kandar, Monetane, Gavapusun Chopper, J. Sagi, Jusolia, some not Yachet, Conscious and down there. Dibachi and Michashin Sin, Rani Jubu. Random called to be gone and Shella Demegi, Chachuni, what to get the Nurtaya. That takes on the Masebe, Tindeji Tone, Sem Tubuchungsuna, Sem Shide Chungsuna, Shenda Parshan, Susu Tselinua, Lubo Deva, Sem Kiba, Yongalaya, Pingiova. What that Tuzo, the Monetane, Ribe Tone, Daje Chele, and then Ruina. Alekiava Chuma Yuksha, Tava Tamji 한번 육샤 셋 네가 랑이야 라기바 지소 기바야 팬도 용그래 했어야지 그렇게 저 디나데 세버도 왔어.
So, regardless whether we are a Dharma practitioner or not, the importance and the benefits of subdued disciplined mind versus the disadvantage of having an unsubdued mind is something that we should all pay attention to. And I think there are two reasons why this is the case here. So, firstly, we are all social animals. Our existence is contingent on the society that we live in, contingent on the world, the country that we live in, isn't it? So whether we are talking about gaining knowledge or education, or whether we are talking about our own health, whether we are talking about engaging in business, all of these activities can only be done on the basis of the existence of other people in the place or the country or the society that we live in. There's no such thing. Well, it's impossible to do business with ourselves. Example, right? So, since many of these activities that we engage in our daily life are contingent on the existence of others, therefore, since our happiness and our well-being are interconnected, it is therefore important for us to think about the greater good. Yeah, we should not just focus on our own benefits, on our own well-being, isn't it? Right? So that's the first reason. And the second reason is this, yeah. So according to medical science, people who tend to be more selfish, people who people who often use the word me, I. It seems that the chances of them contracting a heart disease is higher. And whereas people who have a bigger heart, an open heart, those who think more about others, somehow they tend to be happier. They tend to be more calm, and in fact, they might even have a better physical health. And His Holiness often mentions in the teachings that often cites medical studies that have shown that people who have a bigger heart, people who are good heart, tend to have stronger immune systems. So therefore, it is important for us to think of the greater good, to consider the well-being and happiness of others. And this goes very well with the second line of the verse, engage in wholesome, perfect virtue. And likewise, we should discipline ourselves. We should reduce or avoid causing any harm to others. And this goes very well with the first line of the verse: do not commit any non-virtue. And then you have the third line: subdue your mind thoroughly. As I mentioned earlier on, so if our minds are subdued, And who is a person whose mind is subdued? A person who's not selfish, a person who thinks about welfare of the benefit of others, the person who thinks more of the greater good, yeah. Such a person tends to be more calm, more happy, and might even live a longer life, yeah, isn't it? So all of this can be explained, for example, using the third line of the verse, which is subdue your mind thoroughly. And if you think about it, all the things I've just said, they're pretty much common sense, isn't it? Right? There's no blind faith involved. If you think about it, you see the point behind being a good-hearted person. You see the point behind abstaining or reducing our harmful actions, and we see the point, the importance of having a subdued mind, isn't it?
Rinpoche?
뭐? 다시 들래.
다시 들래, Rinpoche. Maybe we take now half an hour, 30 minutes break, and we come back and meet again in half an hour.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Parsen chuzo chega shuna. Aso.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Oya tushche. Kyoche.